Yes, thank you for joining us once again on the Participation Trophy podcast. Had to switch the intro up one time for my man Earl Simmons, aka Darkman X, aka DMX, our hip hop legend who passed on last week. Also, a heartfelt RIP to Dwayne Wright, another unarmed black man gunned down by a cop in Minnesota. It's been a rough and somber week. We're going to get into all of it. I'm glad you could join us with me as usual. My man Jamal A. Smith, my man Zane Zaidi, my son Neil Dalal, fellas. Man, I wish we could laugh a little bit more, but the fucking state of Minnesota strikes again. First, you got Philandro Castile, then you got George Floyd, whose killer's murder case is ongoing as we speak, and now the young king, 20-year-old Dwayne Wright, who was gunned down by a Minnesota cop during a traffic stop. A cop who apparently 26 years on the job and whose excuse was they mistook their gun or their taser for a gun. Jamal, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, dude. It's
we sick of this shit. We sick of this shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, bottom line, like, let's bottom line up front. I'm tired, man. You're just very emotionally exhausted. We spent a year in lockdown, and things like this seemingly had kind of a freeze on them, right? But what we've seen over the last few weeks is a return to this kind of sad, like, underbelly of American culture, which is police-involved shootings, mass shootings. Just a lot of shit that's very, like I said, emotionally taxing. This particular story, super unfortunate. When I heard the news break, I was very surprised at how quickly body cam footage came out of this. And it was good because, we want to see, as American people, what the story is behind, these kind of catastrophic things going on. So, you can say whatever you want to say about the guy's background and, what he had pending, all that stuff. All that does, though, is it gives very fortunate narratives to people who want to justify what happened.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we see the same cycle over and over again. There's a shooting, it gets partisan divide, right? So one side will rush to see what the kid's background is. The other one wants to fight for justice. And then, we get beaten down with it and we rinse and repeat. And, the grounds on which his life is taken, a mistake over what and first the narrative is like, well, maybe the cop wasn't trained. This person shouldn't have belonged in the force. And we find out, she had been serving with 26 years and she's like a police union president. So that narrative goes out the window, right? And you wonder, why is it acceptable that this mistake, her mixing up the different types of devices just leads to somebody's death. And what we need to do, and I'm not talking about we, probably not present company included, but people at large, you can defend law enforcement. Obviously they serve a necessary purpose in society, but they fuck up on their job just like everybody else.
Right.
And when they fuck up, the consequences are you can't undo them.
It's somebody's life, unfortunately.
They're bad apples, Jamal. They're bad apples. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to.
The whole tree's rotted, man.
Yeah, we got to be quicker to acknowledge that some people are just not qualified to do this type of work. If you don't have the snap judgment, if you don't have the quick wits about it, let's be real, if you inherently believe that a certain race of people or a certain type of people are dangerous, this probably isn't a lot of work for you. And
but you nailed it, man. I want to stop you right there for a second because I was waiting for that point to come up.
Right.
When there's an inherent nature in anyone and there's a stigma that exists. This is I use the word stigma because it was a word that Martin Luther King used in one of his interviews where he talked about the stigma that's been placed on the color of someone's skin. Mm-hmm. And that inherently creates these feelings out of, in the worst case scenario, a cop.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about it, you can talk about Dwayne Wright all you want about his priors, about what led to the cop pulling him over and asking him to get out of the car. We get it, right? But the fact of the matter is that there's been situations far worse than a 20-year-old who had been violating parole or whatever it was, where they've walked out of that situation clean.
Right. Like when have we ever heard
right
of a mass shooter, if he's white,
right?
I don't think I've ever heard of him not coming out of there and being transported to jail or wherever without it's always safe.
Yeah.
And that's the point. That is it right there. Once it changes at that point, then a lot of things will change. But until that stigma exists, as long as that stigma exists, which it has for the past 400, 500 years, nothing's going to change.
I mean, it's not going to change, right?
It's not going to change.
Well, we talk about these things we talk about these things all the time, right? And we bring up these points that should be conversation enders, right?
Right.
And should be change bringers. And
there's always an excuse.
It's always an excuse.
Unfortunately, everything I just said, is hypothetical in its own sense. It is.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
With so many high-profile shootings, I've done so much kind of research and I've listened to so much material on. My thing is nothing in our society exists in a vacuum. You know, you can say things are one-off. It's all bullshit.
Right.
There's roots to everything that goes on in the country, everything in the world. And if you look back in history, the two things that always stick with me about law enforcement and Black people, Black men specifically, one is that policing really started out in the Deep South as slave patrols, right?
Yeah.
So, citizens essentially were empowered to go out and do the job as an extension of law enforcement to, basically hunt down Black people. And then the second is you can look at everything going back to like Black comics, right?
Yeah.
On how Black men, and I'm actually going to bring in Black women in this case too, because this has a current play here, but Black men in the, post-segregation kind of Jim Crow era were viewed as superhuman, People view Black men as like mutants, like we could withstand a certain amount of, bullets and brute force and, that's what it's, the term buck kind of, thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember when Michael Brown got shot and a lot of, just the nastiness came out on social media about Michael Brown. And if you look at the way Darren Wilson described Michael Brown, it's like he hulked up when he got shot.
Yeah, exactly.
He fucking absorbed bullets and ran through them, right? And, he was unstoppable. Yeah. So these things these are indelible in American history. You can't wash this stuff away.
Right.
No matter how much you say we've moved on or we've evolved, it does. It's intrinsic in the way Black people are treated, and Black women. Absolutely. How many times have we heard of Black women not getting proper medical care because the industry doesn't understand how to handle. They think they have superhuman, strength and pain. They can withstand a lot of pain. Serena Williams talked about how much shit she went through giving birth because she just wasn't, viewed properly and understood properly as a Black woman. So again, I look at these types of things and say, we are not making progress no matter how much, to Zane's point, how much we think we should. Just again, certain things just won't go away.
It's also just like, just like you mentioned before, it's those factors in addition to policing in general. I mean, and it's changed so much drastically, right? When they used to talk about policing back in the day, police officer was a person who knew everybody in the neighborhood, right? It was part of the community. And now, with those stigmas in mind, and Malcolm Gladwell talks about this in his book, which if you guys haven't read it, you guys should read it. Or he talks about it on a podcast also about, when this cop had seen Sandra Bland driving around, how much time he spent just to wait for her to fuck up. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like how much time and effort went into that, right? As in the thought of there's nothing else you can be doing. You know what I mean? Like, and the war on drugs definitely made this worse because, the directions that police were getting were to really waste time in basically, doing lower level offenses or basically targeting people, right? To satisfy numbers, right?
Quotas.
Same thing with these traffic stops and all this bullshit, right? So it's like, I don't know. I mean,
what bothers me the most is as you're explaining all this and just the gradual progression of how racism became more systemic, as the years went on, like the war on drugs, mass incarceration, like the brilliance of humans to be wasted in this in such a way. Like, this stuff it takes so long to be able to create something like this and only to lead to the dehumanization of a certain group of people. Like they were brought into this country as objects to begin with, right? Like there was no humanization to them at all. They had no souls, nothing. They were just humans that were handpicked based on, you know, their strengths and stature, and just tossed around as slaves and so on and so forth. So
and
it's baffling. It's absolutely,
there's a scene in the Godfather, and I don't want to get off, you know, too much, but they're talking about, you know, introducing the selling of drugs right into the mafia, and you know, one of the guys says, cool, like, go ahead, sell the drugs, but you know, I don't want it sold to kids, I don't want it sold near schools. And one of the guys says, you know, that's fine. Like, he's like, fine, we'll only sell it to the colored, right? Because they've lost their souls anyway, right? And it's like, it's just fucking crazy, just the like the mentality that people have, you know what I mean, even in modern times, you know. So, you know, and I'm coming from the perspective of in this week, not even knowing what this incident was. As a person who's followed a lot of these stories, this last couple of weeks, I was ignorant to it, right? And I've talked about this in the past, how I've just become, you know, not as a black person, but like I've just become numb to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just like Dave Chappelle said, he says, a kid gets killed by the police and I buy a t-shirt, you know, and before I can wear that one, there's another kid and I'm running out of closet space, you know. And that's just where I'm at, where I'm just like, when does this, like, when the body cams came out, I'm like, okay, this is indisputable, right? Now what's gonna happen? And then it's just like, it's just the numbers have extrapolated. And
it's again, back to the original point. People think that law enforcement cannot do wrong, and again, that's an American psyche, and it's ingrained
until it happens to them.
And mostly,
I mean, on an individual basis is what I'm saying.
Right. So look, to bring it home, I'm telling, and this is my PSA to black men specifically: protect your peace.
Yes.
You know, unplug. I'm talking to my boy, you know, shout out to Damon, who said he went to top off the other day. He just got off of everything and took some time to himself. You know, I'm probably going to take a day here and there. I did that last year. We're coming up on a year anniversary of the George Floyd, you know, killing.
Yeah.
And I told my boss, I was like, I can't do it, dude. I gotta get off. Not that I was getting any sort of attack, you know, through work.
No, I know. You sometimes
it's an emotional toll.
You know,
it's crazy, man.
You just we are seeing so much trauma, black trauma, in H fucking D. You know, on a quarterly basis at the very least, and it's fucking tough, man. We're in you know, the defense is arguing now in the Chauvin trial, so the narrative is turning around. So you know, you get on Twitter and, you know, I fucking doom scroll. You see all these guys like, you know, saying Chauvin's going to get acquitted. This shit wears on you after a while. So just get away for a while and, you know, do something to treat yourself and kind of bring your emotions down if you can.
Real quick.
So real quick, I'm sorry, my bad. You got two sons, man, and I know you talk to them a lot about what's going on. But how do they react to just seeing you sometimes when you're in that moment? When you can they see that angst sometimes as a black father, as a black adult? And do you feel like they see it? Does that worry you that they see it? How do you handle that? I kind of spoon feed them a little bit about what's going on. So I do less like, here's what's going on and pointing at things on the TV, and more like, you know, first and foremost, I want you guys to know I love you. And then, you know, here's what you should know about, you know, I can bring you this far as a peaceable citizen. I can teach you manners. I can teach you to be respectful to elders and all that stuff. But at a certain point, and, you know, I remember when, you know, again, being regular Darren Wilson, when he wasn't indicted, my fear is always, it's not me. I'm fully confident in the way I raise my children. It's the bigot, the racist that's out, that's what they can't control,
fearful of them, and just for no reason at all.
So
I don't show them a whole lot. You know, I try to, again, my kids are 9 and 11, so I try to teach them, I think, what's appropriate for their age level. But we're going to have some more, you know, probably uncomfortable talks, because again, the stuff is not going to slow down. So you know, I'm very guarded about what I share with them, but they still know. And my oldest son has a very keen interest in the news. He watches the news every day, so you know, he knows what's going on. But I'm trying to shield him from some things at the very least.
Yeah. Real talk.
The only thing I was going to say,
you had a point. Yeah.
Just to Jamal's point about how it's just, you know, it wears on everybody. You know, Bradley Beal was talking about this yesterday, you know, post game. you could just see how much it's wore on him just in the way he talked for 2 minutes. He looked exhausted. Yeah. It's essentially, it's another time that this has happened, another time where people are going to make excuses and not try and fight for the justice that, Daunte deserves. He was even talking about, the Army lieutenant in Virginia who was absolutely harassed, pepper sprayed, handcuffed on the ground, thrown out of his car.
Yeah. I almost mixed up the two because I had heard about the Army vet first, obviously.
And that happened in December.
Oh, did it? I don't
even know that.
And the video just came out, and the cop was just fired because the video came out.
Oh shit! Okay, so I only heard about it right before Dwayne Wright. So when Dwayne Wright's news came out, I thought they were talking about the Army vet still.
Yeah. I've seen a few people mix those up. Again,
which is insane in itself, shit. Right? That's fucking insane.
And if you look at that video, that guy did everything that.
Right, you can't say he didn't comply. He fucking complied with everything
that we as black males are taught to do. If you are pulling public beats, he got to a well-lit area. He put his hands on the wheel immediately. He told the police his every move. Like, this is the shit we do. Is like, like we're fucking.
But it's like, I know I don't want to be a dick, but it's also like, no matter who complies and who isn't, it still happens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like with Daunte, right? It still happens. It still happens. No matter what you do, it still happens, right?
Yeah. That's that stigma. Oh man. All right, man. That was some powerful stuff. Everyone just be safe. My brothers out there.
Please be safe.
Handle it however much you control it and defend yourself from what you can. So that's the America we live in. Before we head out of homeroom, I did want to give a fat shout out, peace and blessings to my fellow Muslims out there. Happy Ramadan.
Sure.
Ramadan Mubarak, Ramadan Kareem. May this month be spiritually fulfilling in every regard. And y'all be safe out there too. Take care of your bodies. Let's make the most of this time before we go back to our shitty selves next month. And an exclusive happy Ramadan to Kyrie Irving. I didn't even realize my man had embraced Islam, which is kind of weird to me. I think he's weird, so it makes me want to almost convert to something else now that he's a Muslim. But
come on, man.
I don't know, man. I'm just messing around, man. I love you, Kyrie. But hey, we're gonna get into some more Kyrie in a bit for sure. But first, the home team Wizards coming up in open gym. Bell sound. All right, the Washington Wizards, or should I say, in the spirit of Kyrie Irving, the Washington Weirdos. What's up with this team, man? They actually swept the Jazz this season. The one team in the West, right, that has like the runaway best record in the league, and the fucking Wizards sweep them. Neil, talk to us, man.
Make it make sense.
Yeah, so, obviously, so I made some money off this. Zane probably wouldn't be happy with that. I made good money on the over and on the Wizards covering.
Wizards fans just finding a way to enjoy this shit, man. We just stop putting money on.
Look, you gotta find bright spots in seasons like this.
For sure.
Sports betting and like whatever fucking young players doing well.
So you bet on the Wizards beating the Jazz.
I bet on them covering. Not necessarily the same thing.
Oh, it's not the same thing. See? Yeah, there you go.
But essentially, the Wizards, this is the healthiest they've been pretty much all season, dating back to the beginning of the season before Thomas Bryant went down, unfortunately. Utah, they were dealing with Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson. The Wizards just seem to have their number. Russell Westbrook had a pretty efficient night. Bradley Beal had a pretty good game. The exact same recipe that they had to beat them a month ago at home. And the Wizards went and broke their 24-game home winning streak.
Yeah. Except on a few rare occasions, I feel like, because you mentioned Russ and Beal and them being on last night, like those two have to be on
correct
for the most part for the Wizards. Like they combined for 70 points last night, right? And I believe the first game against Utah they combined for a pretty
78.
Good 70. Yeah, that was the monster game.
Yesterday was like 60-ish.
They both had almost 40, right?
Yeah.
So they have to play that well for them to compete, let alone beat the Jazz. That's kind of been the story all year.
Yeah, so, it's a rare occasion, but when Beal and Westbrook are clicking, the Wizards can be, competitive with any team in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this season so fucking frustrating, right? They should be in the middle of the pack for, I think, playoff contention.
They should easily be a 6th seed in the East.
Yeah. You know what's going to be crazy? If we should go back and play our season predictions. Like where we thought.
Let's not revisit that.
I win.
How many wins they have?
They're going to get less than what I predicted. I predicted 23 or 24. What did you guys say? Like 30, 35? Somebody said 38. One of you motherfuckers said 38.
I plead the 5th.
We doing if you doing Price is Right rules there?
Price is Right rules. Everybody's fucked.
I should have bet $1.
You know what? Hey, when this season ends, I'm bringing that tape back. I'm putting that shit out.
I think Joe outdid us all with his optimism.
Defense, y'all had me drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. Oh, where's Westbrook?
It was supposed to work, man.
Let's be very real, though. You don't think Ted Leonsis is still drinking the Kool-Aid and thinks that this is going to work next season?
God, no.
I think he's drinking
vodka. Is Scott Brooks coming back?
No. All right. Scott Brooks is not coming back.
Dude, we've already talked about it. The roster is immovable. What is Ted going to do?
Correct. But I bet you Ted thinks that this roster and this core with a new coach is better already than what they're going to do now. I bet you that Ted is going to try and run this back next year.
I mean, that's what they like. They basically listen to Neil's points where he says, "Oh, Bertans was out of the country," and then he started a keto diet. He was on keto at the beginning of the season, so his carb intake was low, but now he's fully carbed up. And Rui's coming along, so reasonably, that's exactly what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Hey, if Tommy needs somebody to get hired,
fucking Scott Brooks and Tommy Sharpe have a fucking PowerPoint with all of Neil's bullet points.
Oh, god. That's the shit we heard from Ernie Grunfeld every year too, right?
It's what they do, though. It's what they
always like wave to that one Ernie press conference
and then,
where he just said, like, I look at what.
No, but he's right, man. Listen.
It's crazy.
Listen, don't let me die on this hill with fucking Neil, man. We talked about the core four. I think the core four is solid, and he's right. Like, and I won't defend you on Bertans as much because Bertans was healthy for a lot of games and just couldn't fucking. He's literally the most one-dimensional player in one-dimensional player history. Like, this motherfucker doesn't do shit else. He's like Nick Novak.
He's Kyle Korver. Yeah.
Kyle Korver.
Nick Novak.
That's about to say Nick Nolte.
That's the kicker. You mean Scott Steve Novak?
Steve Novak. Oh, fuck, man. Steve, Nick, Scott.
Stevie Nicks?
Those like the last three white cops that shoot a black guy. That was their names.
Right.
Fucked up.
Brett.
Oh, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
So, yeah. Got me all riled up over Scott Novak. Steve Novak.
Steve Novak. But same shit. Potato.
You know that Ted is drooling over the fact that fans are going to be back in this building. He's itching. He's saying, is there any possible way that I can host 2 playoff games this season? If it is, I'll increase my fan intake earnings by 200%.
Yeah, I can pay off my boat.
Nah, man. He wants that Japanese audience. He wants that Japanese media and the Israeli audience from overseas. Because those motherfuckers are tuning in if their boy is in the playoffs.
They are.
Right? That's
their number one guy. Jesus.
Listen, you're shocked.
The Wizards are.
I'm telling you facts right now. I'm telling you facts right now. This is what's going on right now.
The Wizards are probably the number one team in Japan, Israel, Latvia, maybe Germany.
Oh, I forgot Latvia. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. They still got some remnants of Mo Wagner in Germany.
They got Isaac Bonga.
Wagner.
They got some Mo Wagner jerseys still going around like Bonn, St. Augustine, and Frankfurt. Motherfuckers still think he's on the team. They tune in. He's like, yeah, he's DMP tonight. He's not playing.
Speaking of anybody fucking with a Wizards game when the Cap One Arena opens back up? I'm thinking about it, man.
We talked baseball last week. I don't know about basketball yet.
That could be the second vaccine, like putting a battery in my back. Like,
I don't know. I mean, if they ever bring back those chicken tenders with the Korean chili sauce.
Oh yeah, you like that shit, didn't you?
Oh my goodness.
They serve those in the arena? I've never seen it before.
They used to.
Yeah.
Every time I used to cover a Wizards game, I used to cop those with the Asian chili sauce. Good lord.
Shit. Yeah, that was the Ernie Grunfeld special, only in July.
We'll bring Ernie back.
July, play Julie.
Fuck that fat face fucker, man. Ruin our team, man. No face, motherfucker.
Hey, man, we haven't done a show since before Ernie was fired. We got to put him in detention for no reason. One
just because, yeah.
On draft night, our draft show, we just throw him in detention just on draft night.
Setting the Wizards back 2 decades.
Yeah. All right. Well, we love our audience, and we're gonna please Zane's boy, whoever he was who got sick of the Wizards banter. We're gonna stop it right there. Got some more shit around the NBA. More drama for your mama. Kevin Durant and Shannon Sharpe get into it.
I love it.
Over some lies, some he said shit.
Who's fucking lying? That's what I want to know.
Who's lying? Yeah.
Who's lying? I say Shannon's lying.
So what's the original
so here's my thing. Shannon. So there's a printed quote of what Shannon said that KD said, which came from a podcast. Has anybody not gone back to the podcast and said, "Wait a second, this is not what KD said," or "Yeah, this is what you said"? He quoted him from a podcast, right?
I thought it was first tape, but it was okay. So now I was wrong then. I thought it was an actual TV show, but it's from a podcast. Okay.
One or the other, right? Like he's on video or he's got audio of him.
Either way, there's documentary evidence of Shannon misquoting. KD. I say it's Shannon because he's paid to be a sports pundit, right?
Oh, of course.
So, and people just keep fucking with KD. Like, do they know is just because they know they can get a rise out of him on social media?
Yes.
To me, it all goes back.
He's going to respond, and he's funny as shit when he responds.
He is.
He's just so easy to go at. When Peyton Manning was hosting the ESPYs, and he threw jokes and shade at Kevin Durant, he was like, "I heard Kevin Durant just signed with the U.S. Olympics gymnastics team."
Yeah, that was funny as shit. He was salty as shit but that was it. But I mean, that was it. He showed his saltiness to the whole situation, and people jumped on. And he responds to people on Twitter, so people just naturally jump on it.
Yeah,
and we forget some of the demographics of some of these end users on Twitter. You know,
So was Shannon a bitch for blocking him?
Yeah,
he blocked him.
Yeah,
he blocked him. He was like,
"Oh,
I'm
perfect
a
response
sensitive one.
Kevin. Yeah,
I'm supposed to be
sensitive one. Yeah. That set up KD again. So after he blocked him, but no, I agree. I think Shannon was wrong for misquoting him. I used to be a big KD stan, a big one in OKC. The whole Golden State shit rubbed me off a little bit. So as a fan, I'm not super pro KD. I'm not super anti KD. I think snake emoji in my head every time I see him tweet. I don't really respond to with that.
I mean, I defended him when he went to Golden State. I didn't find anything. And then when he left, I was like, come on, man. You can't say this is why you left and then you pretty much leave for the same reasons. I don't know, but I'm honestly just tired of the guy.
Oh, you're surprised? No,
I'm surprised.
I never understood why you liked him going to Golden State either. I thought.
I mean, coming from where he came from, right? And
what about me?
What?
The consumer.
I enjoyed watching them play. I thought it was beautiful basketball. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was amazing to watch. Right?
As a KD consumer, right? As somebody who loves Kevin Durant, and you have a certain expectation as a fan. Again, I know KD gonna do what KD gonna do, et cetera, et cetera. I get that angle of it, right? But for myself, like seeing KD get to the conference finals on the brink of beating the greatest team of all time, arguably, right? The 73 win Golden State Warriors, blow a 3-1 lead to that team, right? And then as a fan, you know, you see that happen and you're just like, oh, fuck this shit. Next year we got him, right? You just kind of feel like, you know.
Did you really believe that though?
As a fan, I wanted that to happen. I wanted Kevin Durant to come back with that squad and fuck shit up for that team.
Of course, but
when he left, here's again. I'm sorry. LeBron left in 2010. Everyone was like, "That's fine. He can go wherever he wants." We get it. Cleveland. He went to Miami, joined the super team. Similarly, KD does the same thing. I knew he was going to leave. I knew he wanted out. But to go to that team as a fan, it just kind of frustrates you. It's like,
of course, but I mean, my perception of Golden State is vastly different than the general consumer. I never thought that
they're not
Golden
a super
State,
team without KD.
I never believed that.
Right.
Yes. I mean, I never believed. I thought they were the ultimate team, as in their skill sets and the way they played made them amazing. But I thought that they were pretty much, I don't want to say overrated. I'm not saying that. I just felt like they made the most out of what they had, and it was amazing to watch. Like when you actually break down the components of the team. I mean, Curry's amazing. He's the greatest shooter ever, but he's a small guard, and the Klay Thompson's a spot up shooter who has a lot of other skills, obviously. And Draymond is a guy who, can do a lot of dirty work. And I thought it was great seeing them together. But I also felt like that Cavs team that beat them was amazing. I thought that roster top to bottom was great, other than the injuries. I thought the team was stacked. But at the end of the day, in my mind, from watching Russell Westbrook this year, and you guys can attest to this, whether you like him or not, imagine being in the position of playing with that player every night, right? And so to see some of the shit that would lead them to lose games, right?
Yeah.
The errant turnovers, hogging the ball, just horrible, game management, play management, head down, running towards the basket. There was obviously something broken there. And at the end of the day, the winners write history, right? And I felt like at the time, KD was trying to rewrite history by getting those titles under his belt, right? Because the perception of him instantly changed, right? Because in the beginning, I was like, oh, fuck this guy. As soon as he won, all that shit went out the window, right?
Did it?
There was, I mean, probably
I didn't enjoy KD's two
of the
rings.
people.
I as a KD fan didn't enjoy KD's 2 rings. I didn't.
Of course, but probably half the people, right? Because people will still point to this, which I don't agree with. Well, KD went face up with LeBron. You beat him in the finals. I didn't look at it that way, but a lot of fans did, and that instantly
as a
changed
KD stan, the KD stan in me did actually look at it that way.
But see, that's
that
what I'm
one
saying.
little bit of me.
Yeah, like he comes. I mean, obviously he had a great team, so he could take those risks. But it put him in a position to make clutch plays on the biggest stage. And that Nike commercial they came out with during the finals, that shit was fucking fire. Like that, like shit like that, like the media machine, it changed everything. But then when he leaves and says, if I didn't like the way Steve Kerr was running his offense and all this bullshit, that completely just turned me off. I would have rather him stayed there and kept riding that train in my mind. So
I've mostly tangents from this, but I think are cool stories. So one I saw recently on Twitter. Today is the 5-year anniversary of the Golden State Warriors clinching the best record in regular season history, 7-3-9. We're recording April 13th, 2016. And somebody was like, where were you when the Warriors did this? And somebody quote retweeted that shit, watching Kobe drop 60. I was like,
60, yeah.
Yep, 100%. That shit was epically legendary. And the other thing, when I
would have said I was opening up an incognito browser tab at that moment.
You see it? You
can multitask.
With the supersonic hearing, like, damn, is somebody coming down the steps?
Yeah.
And the other thing is I think my lone interaction with Kevin Durant, when he first came and was part of the Warriors, when they came to DC and played, I asked him, a general question about Scott Brooks, and he was gassing that man up. Looking all these years later, I don't know what the fuck he was talking about.
No, of course he was. Russell Westbrook was gassing his ass up too when he got here.
Yeah, but Russell Westbrook, he can say that because Scott Brooks lets him do whatever the fuck he wants.
That's what it is, right?
But that's what
Kevin Durant. Come on, man. He's not even your coach anymore. Give me an honest answer instead of gassing this man up. This man is a bad coach, and you're trying to act like
no. But you have to bash their former coach.
Yeah, but you have to look at the same reason why Russ loved Scott Brooks is why Kevin Durant loves Scott Brooks. Sure. He just fucking let him loose and bailed him out. And those two bailed him out.
To me, for sure, though.
No, of course, yeah. But that's why and I always say the OKC was really good those years in spite of Scott Brooks. It wasn't because Scott Brooks was a good coach. It's because they had perennial future All-Stars, Hall of Famers at that point. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm not sold on anything you said, Zane. Anything you said. Fuck that. And 2 points. One was KD was never going to go back to that team because if you've listened to the Steve Kerr podcasts and he's talking about it, I mean that shit was irreparable at that point.
Yeah, after the Draymond thing, I think.
Yeah, after the Draymond thing. But another point was,
which Draymond was right, by the way.
Yeah, but yeah, Draymond, he was right.
I'm a big Draymond stan all fucking day.
Oh, all day.
And have you heard Draymond talk about that finals run? The way he talks about it, it's like it was nothing to them. He was like, I don't even remember that year because we were having so much fun. We were just it was all those natural the natural talents that you spoke. They were in the zone, but like you said, their talents were unstoppable. Each of them individually, right? You had the glue guy and Draymond, and all those pieces around him: Clay, Steph. Who else was on that team?
Sean Livingston.
Livingston, but all the other pieces, but mainly those three. They were just too good, and he was like, we were just fucking around that year. We were fucking around that year.
Yeah, it's a little easy to say after the fact, but yeah, I mean, obviously.
But you remember how Golden State played those few years? They would just flip a fucking switch out of nowhere, right? They go back, they go down by 12. They go down by 12 late in the second quarter, right? And right before halftime, it'd be a 3-point game. In the third quarter, it's a rout.
Of course, yeah.
Steph would torch the Wizards those days.
Yeah,
because so.
Yeah, I mean, my thing was he never played to that level, Steph, in the finals against a team.
He didn't, no,
like Cleveland, because as their best player, and this has always been my theory, like if your best player is 5'10", right, or whatever he is, 6 feet tall.
No, you're right.
You are very limited in what you can do. It's very hard because you can just trap the guy, you can get the ball out of his hands, and then you're left passing the ball with fucking Sean Livingston back and forth to Draymond Green, right? Which is. They made it work, but I think Steve Kerr was an instrumental part of that. But I mean, like you saw how they played with Mark Jackson, which they played really well. But when they started playing with Steve Kerr, they just exploded.
Yeah,
that's totally random. But how bad does Mark Jackson have to be feeling calling all those finals games for ABC? And like,
he fucking loves it. I feel like he does every word.
He's getting paid, less stress, less bullshit.
Oh my god!
But still, to know that. This is probably one of the best teams in NBA history. And then you just shot the bed. What? They never even got out of the second round with them? The Scott Brooks effect, the Randy Whitman.
Yeah. Well, it was only fitting for us to derail all the way off into the 73 Warriors, 71 Warriors.
Where did that come from?
No, but it was fitting too. You said today was the 5-year anniversary of that special incognito tab moment for myself. Wonder what it was. You ever think about that?
I wonder what it was.
What was my mood like that night? What it was?
You probably saw somebody's feet, and then it was like,
oh God, come on, man! It's not on the Ramadan show, man. Come on. I'm trying to refrain, man. Oh man. Let's keep it moving on the NBA. Elsewhere, Kyrie Irving. And Dennis Schröder. So they get into a little jawing match, a little bad lip reading. Turns out Dennis Schröder calls Kyrie a slur that he did not prefer or approve of.
Flat earther? Is that what he called him?
Yeah, flat earther.
Listen, you flat earther.
Can you imagine if you said that? Come on, you flat earther. Flat earther. Hey, watch your mouth.
To me, and I even watched the whole thing and I saw a little bit of the breakdown, but Kyrie is just over the top here. Like, this man is all up in Dennis Schroeder's face and shit. It's like, dude, have you heard of personal space? 6 feet distance, damn, this man was 6 inches away from his face. I would be surprised if any other NBA player would be like, back the fuck up, bro.
Is Schroeder, does he have a rep as like a troll? Is he getting like one of those? I feel like he's
that. So I won't necessarily say he's a troll like that and that's his rep, but remember back in
not Pat Beverly level, but he's kind of approaching something like
right.
that.
He is. But remember back when the Wizards played the Hawks in the Paul Pierce era and John Wall had the broken wrist, John Wall always tells us Dennis Schroeder
7 degrees of separation,
smacking the shit out of his wrist, and he didn't give a fuck. He said, this is an injury, and I'm gonna attack that fucking injury.
Yeah, I feel like there's something with him that's
no.
It's also a general player thing. Like if you see Kyrie out of games all the time, and he's a little I'm not gonna say he's sensitive. That's what you're gonna go at. Like if a guy's gonna be torching you doing fucking pirouette back, fadeaways, you're gonna find that weakness, right?
Yeah.
People do that shit all the time.
Kyrie's such an interesting dude.
I've actually cut. Sorry, what?
I was saying Kyrie's such an interesting dude.
He is so interesting. Yeah.
He is the most interesting man in the NBA.
And I see him embraced by I know obviously a lot of NBA fans. I know people just like kind of that young kind of 25 to like 18 to 25 range. I see Kyrie's content shared a lot because he's so emotionally open and he's burning sage and he's got the walking stick and he's I think he's fascinating to a lot of people. I did not know about the conversion to Islam.
I didn't either.
That type of stuff just doesn't surprise me because he's such he doesn't seem to want to sit still in any particular thing, whether it be his team or his space in life. Like he's always kind of moving in these, these kind of different spaces that a lot of players just aren't. So the fact that he got mad about a word that I and a lot of people I know use very liberally.
Unless you bring us down like that, brother.
Yeah, that's fine. Wouldn't bother me, but I'm not. Again, that's not my space in life right now.
Yeah.
It's motherfucker like motherfucking like.
Yo, somebody quote tweeted his tweet with the TV dub of Baby Boy. And the scene with Rick Rames is like, yo, these brothers want to test the brother.
Yeah. Hey, look, respectfully,
they know a brother got 2 strikes.
If that's you want to be in life right now, that's cool, man. That's cool. Cool.
He does remind me of and I love Kyrie. I love his independent thought. I love his outspokenness, but he just seems like the kind of dude who's like, you see it in movies all the time. Like, who's that dude in 8 Mile? That dude in 8 Mile who's always bringing up like social issues and shit.
Yeah.
Like when they're trying to have fun, or just like you'll be in the car riding to like the club. And he'd be like,
he talking about Sharif from Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, Sharif. Yeah,
right.
Cut that bullshit out, Sharif.
Man, get your son like him salam ass on my car.
Yeah.
Need to be reading books, brother.
Yeah, exactly. And you ever notice that whenever they portray Jesus, he's a white man?
Yeah.
When in actuality, the book says that Jesus had skin. Like,
I'm gonna send you some articles, man. I'm gonna read some things.
Some articles.
The motherfuckers trying to get me to read Behold a Pale Horse when I was in 11th grade. Like, get the fuck out of my face, man.
Yeah.
Educate yourself.
Yeah. Did you know Exxon gas station donated $3 million?
You wouldn't know that listening to that garbage, though. You need to turn it off.
Yeah, exactly.
Get your face on the book.
Shit, man. Yeah, I feel like I weirdly resonate with Kyrie. I think, like you said, his conviction when he talks, like I admire the conviction that he talks with.
Yeah.
No matter what he says, he's just like, this is how I feel. What really got me going on Kyrie was when the reporter asked him what kind of a father figure LeBron has been to him.
He was like, what? Yeah.
You haven't heard this, Jamal?
That is a terrible question.
I have not.
This is
I
grade A Kyrie stuff. So Kyrie responds. He goes, "I'm sorry. What? Like
did I mishear you?
Like,
do I have some earwax in here?"
He's like, "No, I only have one father." And he names his dad's full name. Super offended by somebody.
I mean, that was part of what led to his trade demand. I mean, that was
it. That was the last straw.
Yeah.
That was the last straw. I'm very surprised you didn't hear that, Jamal. Yeah, that was the
look
end
it
of
up. I think Kyrie's going to go down as one of the more interesting players. I could see him having like a not quite Ricky Williams post basketball career, but almost kind of like that. Because
I'm surprised if he retires next year.
Huh?
I want to be surprised if he retires.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna retire with a lot of good years left in his in his career, and he's gonna
come out with his own brand of purple haze, that purple Urk,
that purple Urkel,
that purple Urkel,
that purple Urk.
Oh man. Well,
Kyrie, the most interesting man in the NBA.
Yeah, there you go.
Fucking best handles in the NBA.
Ooh,
he's
filthy.
Skill for skill.
He was super filthy lately too, man. Like, yeah.
The thing that is funny though, Kyrie got the most PTO in the NBA.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't feel like playing. I got to go. You know.
He probably forgot to wake up for breakfast.
Yeah.
He's like, damn, I got hot yoga tonight at 8. I gotta move that shit.
And I can't eat for 14 hours. Shit. Yeah. He's just dabbling in Islam right now. I feel you though, man.
Yeah, I feel like
find your peace, man.
No, he's practicing that right now.
Every black man is dabbling in Islam. If you really think about it. I watched the movie X so much that my ex thought I was going to convert. Like, especially I went to the Muhammad Muslim before. I almost changed my life, bro. Yeah, I was close, man. I was on the edge.
After you saw Malcolm X?
So I used to watch Malcolm X like once a week.
Okay. I'm surprised you didn't convert after that movie.
So close, dude. So close. I was like, damn, what am I doing in my life going to this fucking Christian church? This is a better plan for me, man. It's a better plan for me.
Yeah, right. All right, man. So Elsewhere in the NBA, AD and Bron still out for another 3 weeks. The Lakers are now in 5th place. They could drop to fucking 8th by the time those two come back. At which point there'll only be a handful of games left, so LA might find themselves with the backs against the ropes.
If there's a team that looks like they had no depth whatsoever, they got totally exposed when Bron and KD went down.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's be real; those are at their peak 2 top 5 players in the NBA. Every team is going to struggle with that.
Right.
Except for those Zards.
Hey,
those Zards. The
Lakers and Wizards about to both be in the play-in tournament. Which team's better, man?
Right. I don't even want them in the play-in tournament.
So today also marks the 25th birthday of the 1996 NBA draft. I love talking about this draft. I love anything mid-90s, especially 96.
My birth year.
Yeah. Right. Oh, is it? There you go. My son's birthday. I should have remembered that. The 96 draft. I'm sorry.
98 is later.
Oh yeah, the 96 draft.
Okay, math whiz.
This was a classic one. Iverson, Ray Allen, Kobe, Steve Nash, John Wallace, Othella Harrington. This was a fun.
Does this hands down go as the best draft in NBA history? Is that like clear cut?
A lot of people give nods to, and this is like recent history, but people give nods to 03 because of it, producing 3 franchise players. There are 4 franchise players. The three.
That's the LeBron year.
LeBron, Wade, Melo, Bosh. Yeah, so people give it to 03, but I don't know why people sleep on that. Sleeps on 96, but 96 to me was a better draft.
Yeah. So if it's any indication, right? 17 of the 21st picks played over 11 years in the league.
Longevity is a thing.
So just to ring off some names. Yeah. You got Allen Iverson. There's some solid plays in here like Marcus Camby, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. We got Stephon Marbury. We got Ray Allen at number 5. We got Antoine Walker at number 6. We got Kobe Bryant, number 13. Obviously, 15 is Steve Nash. 17 is Jermaine O'Neal, who was a pretty damn good player in his day. Derek Fisher was number 24.
Oh.
So the second round doesn't really have much here. Malik Rose, which was a solid, role player for a while.
Shandon Anderson.
I feel like second round is like maybe every year there's 5 or fewer, stars. Or even
is also in here. Peja Stojakovic, Ilgauskas, Daunte Jones. 2005 NBA draft, right, is what we're cross-referencing here.
2003.
2003, sorry.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really top-heavy. Let's see who else.
It's very top-heavy. Yeah, extremely.
So we got LeBron, we got Carmelo, we got Chris Bosh, we got Dwayne Wade. After that,
right, there's a drop-off.
Josh Howard, Barbosa, Kendrick Perkins, Boris Diaw,
Kendrick Perkins. Again. Quick aside, this man is pretty much just taking over Paul Pierce's role on ESPN.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great.
I know.
People love him, though. People love him.
I know.
Well, Perk?
Yeah.
Man.
Whose name was he trying to say that we made fun of before? Vucevic.
Yeah, I don't know. People love Kendrick Perkins and they praise Chris Webber constantly. And I listen to both those guys and I just don't.
I don't know who's praising Chris Webber. People shit on his TNT commentary quite a bit.
People in the industry, they just praise him like he's amazing. And I never understand. He doesn't make no damn sense.
Just another bullet that shouldn't have been traded.
Yeah. But anyways, I think 96, like we were saying, 2003 is way more top heavy, but 1996 just has a lot more depth. You're getting a lot more.
Look, man, Iverson and Kobe alone.
And Steve Nash.
And I think to this day, I'll fight any better. In fact, I think Iverson has been probably the most culturally impactful player in the NBA. Jordan was a commercial creation. Yeah. Iverson was his own shit. Iverson changed.
He didn't give a fuck about anybody else.
Yeah. Iverson brought, the hood and like the street to the game. They changed rules because of Iverson. Like,
practice?
He was everything, man. That motherfucker, for somebody that was undersized, I mean, he was a dog, man. And he was, you know, deserving of every single accolade he ever received.
Yeah. That Ty Lue step over
impact is felt to this day.
Ty Lue step over game 1 might be like one of the most iconic things in NBA history.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I remember what was it, 96 or 97, when he crossed Jordan. I remember being in high school and the internet had just popped off.
Dog.
And we were downloading that shit, trying to stream it.
Yeah.
It's the first time we'd ever seen. It was the first time MJ was ever ridiculed, really, in my lifetime during his career.
Yeah.
And we were just going off at that fucking crossover.
And MJ was trying to D him up. Like
he really was. Yeah.
And he was locked in.
He got him twice.
He made him reach so bad. Yeah.
And just MJ is just athletically and physically so much bigger than Iverson.
Well, when you see them square up, it's so mismatched because Jordan
David
is so
versus Goliath.
His arms are just like out there. You know, like if it was anybody else dribbling that ball in front of him, it's a done deal. And it's Mike. Like Mike, just that killer instinct in his eyes. People shrink. And Allen and Allen got him twice, so got.
I like it, Allen. Call him by his first name. Call him what his mother calls him.
What are you talking about right now?
All right, so that's what
Corona's kicking in, man.
What the hell's going on?
That's Chris Miller's go-to line. I call him Isak because that's what his mom calls him.
Okay, all right. That's gonna. We're done with 1996, man.
Yeah, back to you, Bob.
I don't know if we're totally done with 96 yet, because the next name I'm gonna drop is fucking Evander Holyfield, who wants to come back into the ring. He couldn't fight Tyson, so he's fighting the guy who last beat Tyson in his pro career, Kevin McBride.
He's fighting Kevin McBride.
He's fighting Kevin McBride.
Oh my!
He's 48. God. Holyfield's 48.
No,
first fight in 10 years.
Holyfield's 58. 58.
No, he's 50. I'm sorry, 50. I'm sorry. His last fight was 48.
That makes it 58. Even worse.
Yeah, of course. Zane, you watching it?
I'm watching it. I don't give a fuck. I'll watch it. I mean, I'm definitely watching any boxing match, even if it's some shit like this. Just because I just want to see it. I mean, I love the sport, so I'm willing to see it. I don't think Evander Holyfield, based on his training videos, I don't see what he has. Mike looked like he had something left in the tank. Evander Holyfield, I'm not sure why that fight didn't come to fruition. I don't know if Tyson thought he was going to kill him or what it was, but I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see if it actually happens. Like we said, Mayweather is supposed to fight Logan Paul. That hasn't really happened, and that got pushed back. So I'm curious how far this goes.
Yeah, so I'm curious as how it goes too. Do you remember where you were when Holyfield bit Tyson's ear? Let's play that one.
Oh yeah,
I didn't have a browser tab open. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's funny because just how you mentioned Allen Iverson was that cultural icon. Like we used to have family dinner parties, and we're talking about Tyson, like 30, 40 brown people, right? Like old ass uncles and shit.
Because he was Muslim.
I don't even know if it was. It was just they love. Like it's just crazy. Yeah. Like I'm thinking back and him fighting. Who is it? Sheldon.
When he first came out?
No. I just remember like watching that fight where he's coming out to like Tupac's music. Right, that's that night Tupac got shot.
What it was.
Was that his comeback fight? Tyson?
Bruce Sheldon.
No,
I want to say.
Bruce Sheldon. Yeah,
Bruce Sheldon.
No, his first fight back was against Peter McNeely. He came out to Redman's "Time for Some Action."
Right,
yeah, which was like at that moment, like that was my favorite song ever when he came out to that.
It's just electric, right?
Yeah,
he came out to DMX, obviously, after well after that. But it's just crazy. Like I remember it would be like all these uncles who barely spoke a lick of English, and they would get super excited watching Mike Tyson come out, and they're rooting for him. It was just funny. Like he was that dude that brought boxing into mainstream.
It did. Yeah, he did. I love that cut off towel that he wore.
Yeah,
like so everything about him was just so like marquee, just so him.
Black boots, no socks,
right?
All
black shorts, and a towel and a cut, the kufi. Yeah, man.
Jeez, man.
So good times, man. But we took it right back to 96, didn't we?
That was 97. Holyfield and Tyson too.
Yeah,
which I remember watching also, and Holyfield got in his ass. That fight wasn't.
He did.
Wasn't close.
Yeah. So both fights really.
Yeah, he got in his ass in both fights.
He got in both fights. Yeah. But yeah, I was definitely at a family dinner when that chunk of that ear hit the canvas. Funny as shit, man. You know, I saw Tyson 2 months later. I was 16 years old and at the LA Coliseum for Magic Johnson has a celebrity all-star game. He was sitting courtside.
Nice.
And he kind of mocked what he did by licking his lips at the crowd. So yeah, he was a showcase too. So so if you're not going to watch Holyfield, you do have other boxing options. Jake Paul back in the ring against Ben Askren. What's the haps on that, Zane?
So that's coming this Saturday. I'm definitely going to tune into that too. Ben Askren is an MMA fighter. A lot of people probably remember him from his loss to Jorge Masvidal, where he got pretty much a knee in the face in the first
5 seconds. Legendary.
First 5 seconds. Legendary. Yeah. So he lost that. I don't think he's came back since then. And then Jake Paul's pretty much a YouTuber, as everyone knows. But a lot of people don't know this. Like Jake Paul has been boxing seriously for a few years now. He's not by any stretch of the means like a great boxer, but he spars with actual fighters. So
Jake's the one that fucked up Nate Robinson.
Yeah. Was it?
Yeah.
Yes, it was the one that fucked up Nate Robinson. So, and you could just see the difference between 6 months of training from Nate Robinson and a few years, right? You could just tell from the skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting match. The odds makers have it. Ben Askren only it's a +115 underdog. So maybe that's a sign, that he can compete. Dana White was even saying he's betting $1 million on Ben Askren against, he said that on the Tyson podcast, and even Tyson and Zab Judah were like, slow down. Like, I've seen this guy box. He can box. He's got some skills. But like the eternal question with all this stuff, a lot of people are thinking Ben Askren's going to win. A lot of people like Ben Askren. He's a very affable guy, humble, etc. Well, humble for the moment. A lot of people don't like this YouTuber craze of YouTubers, boxing. So it's very interesting. But, if we learn anything from the McGregor Mayweather fight, and obviously Mayweather's one of the greatest boxers of all time, MMA fighters just don't punch like boxers.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
And they don't know how to throw punches like boxers. Boxers know how to throw punches, right?
Completely different game.
Completely different. And that's why, when they say a boxer who's a civilian has, weapons, right? His hands, is because they punch. All they do is punch. They throw a million punches, right? An MMA guy, they don't do that. They have to have more of a varied skill set. So they're at a disadvantage when it comes to a fight like this. So, I mean, a lot of people are thinking Ben Askren's going to smother him. He's a fighter, true, so he's going to come out on top. I just don't see it. I see Jake Paul is just a more precise puncher. He's more of a boxer. So that's one.
So how would you rank Jake Paul's defense, defending punches? Because I think that's one also thing, and you could probably allude to this a little better than I can. But one of the bigger advantages in boxing is your defense. You could have a shorter reach, not have a stronger punch, but be very well tuned defensively.
If you duck those punches,
which is something that, right? So, which is something that would that affect Ben Askren in this specific situation fighting a boxer?
I mean, there's a pro and con. As a boxer, people don't understand. It's the same thing in football. Like if you're a linebacker, right? You're looking at certain things that are happening, and then your body instinctively is telling you, okay, this is what's happening. This is what I do, right? It's called playing your keys, right? And it's the same thing with a boxer, right? You're seeing what a person's doing, and whatever they're doing, there's a built-in defense that you've learned, right? Well, if a guy's southpaw, or if he's orthodox, if he throws his left, then this is the angle you have, et cetera, et cetera. That's the pro. That's what he's going to have the advantage. The disadvantage is he's fighting a guy who's not fighting under the Queensberry rules. He's not fighting as a traditional boxer, right? So some of those rules can go out the window because he's not playing by that game. Does that make sense?
Right.
So it's hard to play defense against a person who's coming with an unorthodox style, right?
Yeah, of course.
But,
yeah.
At the end of the day, I just don't see how Ben Askren's going to hurt him with punches. But I mean, if you look at this guy's sparring video, he's just throwing these wild arm punches where a boxer's
these wimpy
more
boys.
Yeah, these wimpy little shots. I just don't see how it's going to work. So, I mean, the only reason why I'm watching it, they don't like each other. They've been talking shit. So it's good to see them settle it this way, for lack of a better term.
Are both these fights on the same night?
Both which other fight?
The
Holyfield fight. No,
fight.
Holyfield fight. They're still planning that shit, right? That's down the road.
That hasn't even been scheduled yet. So this one's scheduled for this Saturday, Saturday night. I think it's on pay-per-view. So that's the only fight going on this weekend. There's a bunch of great UFC fights coming up in the next couple of months.
And that's something I wanted to tangent off of the Masvidal Usman fight, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after that.
That's going to be a fight. That's going to be a great fight. I advise if you're not into the Jake Paul, whatever, and you want to save your 60, 70 bucks, and you're not going to illegally stream because that's illegal. We don't do that here.
If you need a plug, hit us up in our DMs. We'll send you a link.
Exactly. And send us a fucking question too, so we can read that shit on the air. But yeah, save your money for that fight. It's gonna be a monstrous fight.
So for people who are kind of novices to the MMA space, would you recommend jumping in on any particular fight with this?
That Masvidal Usman fight, the rematch.
Yeah,
and not this Saturday.
Fights. There's three fights potentially this year that have blockbuster potential. One of them, like Neil said, is the Masvidal Usman fight. Masvidal Street Jesus is what they call him. I mean, this guy was, on those old school Kimbo fights, he's pretty well known. He's a legend in the streets in terms of fighting. He's a shit talker. He is Conor McGregor 2.0, where he just fucking hates everybody. He's trashing everybody. Him and Usman have already fought, right? Kamaru Usman's a fucking tank, the Nigerian nightmare. He's stacked. He's undefeated, I want to say. He fought Masvidal earlier this year, and the guy he was fighting couldn't fight. So Masvidal on 6 days notice. Yeah,
right.
It's a COVID.
We talked about this, yeah.
So Masvidal took that fight on like a week or two notice, and basically
it was
6 days.
Supposed to be a Masvidal Usman fight, but Masvidal held out because he wasn't getting the pay that he thought he deserved.
Yeah, there was something along that lines also. So they haven't liked each other. Usman's pretty humble. Masvidal's a talker. So long story short, he subbed in for that fight, and Masvidal had a built-in excuse because he was only taking that fight on a week or two, whatever. Sure. And he had to drain a lot of weight because the fighters don't usually walk around at their weigh-in weight. They're walking around at their walk-around weight. So he basically had to drain himself. If you watch the videos on YouTube, this guy could barely stand up because he was trying to cut this weight so badly just to make the fight.
Quickly.
Yeah. Usman dominated the fight, but he dominated in a perspective of like, if we're playing 1-on-1, right, and you're smaller than me, I'm just gonna body you down and play bully ball, right? So he smothered him. He smothered him all fight, and he won a unanimous decision, right? So now the narrative is, well, now Masvidal has a couple months to prepare, and they're both talking like they want. And Usman didn't have to take that fight. He basically said, last time I fought him, I didn't break him down the way I wanted him to, like the way I wanted to. I wanted to break down his psyche. I wanted to wear him down. I wanted to basically embarrass him. So we have a potential firefight on our hands where two guys, someone could get knocked out. And there's bad blood. There's shit talking. That's one fight. I'm going to wrap this up. Conor McGregor and Poirier are scheduled to fight in June or July. Hopefully that still happens. It's kind of up in the air. That's going to be a trilogy fight. Conor McGregor got knocked out by Poirier earlier. He won the first fight by knockout. So this is a trilogy fight. That's going to be monstrous. And then the other fight that people should invest in it now is Francis Ngannou against John Jones. John Jones moved to heavyweight.
A tank.
Francis Ngannou is a tank. I don't know if you guys ever seen him. This guy's built, and he's like built out of fucking granite. And John Jones moved up to heavyweight.
He recently, the former guy you said, just defended his championship, right, a couple weeks ago.
Exactly. Ngannou fought a few weeks ago, and he beat Stipe Miocic, who beat him the first fight, knocked him out cold. I mean, this guy's a monster. And John Jones is probably the most talented MMA fighter ever, considered by some the GOAT, along with Khabib. So those are 3 fights coming up in the next year, and one of them is in 2 weeks. I would definitely invest in watching that fight. It's going to be great.
Okay, cool.
We'll send you that link, Jamal.
Legal, right?
Damn, dog. My man just man, you just took over theater, man. That's a lot of fights to watch. We'll keep you guys posted on every single one of them as they come along, as they come up. So we basically covered 96, the 96 draft. We're gonna rewind right back to the 90s here in theater as we talk about some DMX. It's been a rough week for hip hop. It's been a rough week, especially for us older hip hop heads who, through DMX's rise and eventual dominance of the game during those classic late 90s and early 2000s years. Fellas, we were bracing ourselves for this one. DMX, the alleged drug overdose leading to the cardiac arrest, leading to the ICU and life support, and then his eventual death. As he moves on to the next life. This almost sounds like one of his own skits on his CDs, just all dark and morbid and shit. I'll start off with y'all, man. Let's get some of your opening thoughts on the life and career of DMX.
Man, definitely one of the. I look at some artists that came along in the '90s that I feel like broke the mold as far as hip hop acts that we saw. I always look at Onyx as one. I look at like Wu-Tang, obviously, is another outfit. X's style, that kind of fucking hunger and voraciousness that he attacked with every fucking time he got on the mic was one of the most memorable things for me when he hit the scene. And he swept up. I mean, my boys, we rode to DMX like all the time because his shit was just fucking adrenaline pumping, like kinetic, just fucking forceful ass music. I love how he, balanced like, his upbringing and like, where he came from and the spiritual side of him, which is always like pretty prominent too. I mean, he was always in the invocation state. He was praying. He was talking about, his closeness to God. And, despite the fact that he dealt with a lot of shit, obviously off, after his recording life was over, he stayed connected and he stayed humble, man. He just, he was, I saw a little Drink Champs clip where he said, if I died today and, or he was like, whoa. He said, no, I'm good. I'm good with what I achieved in my life. And I always appreciate that about him. And I saw a lot of people say, well, I didn't really listen to X, but, I just appreciated the man that he was.
Right.
And that's the kind of legacy you want to leave behind. So, it was tough, man. It's tough saying pass.
Obviously, I'm the novice when it comes to DMX, but what Jamal said, that adrenaline pumping when X Gonna Give It To You comes on or Party Up comes on, oh, that shit gets you going like none other.
Undeniable, like fucking crowd movers.
Yeah.
Facts.
All the fucking time.
Yeah. But I thought you were gonna say something, and I'll go ahead. But for me, DMX, like, there's a group of people, now that once the news circulated and people were like, is he a legend? Is he not a legend? Listen, all that talk is bullshit. If you were around during DMX's climax and like that was the era that you listened to music in, if you know, like you knew DMX came on the scene with a vengeance. 1998 was a stacked year.
It's crazy.
Was a stacked year. It wasn't just like X by a landslide. He dominated that year, but there was a stacked year. We had the Locks come out that year. We had Big Pun dropped Capital Punishment that year. Fat Joe dropped Don Cartagena. And DMX dropped 2 albums that year. Jay-Z Volume 2 came out that year. Onyx, that you mentioned, Shut 'Em Down came that year. Death Squad, Noriega, NORE came out in 98. Bro, so X was up against a lot of competition.
It was a golden year.
But he came on that scene, and if he was not shitting on you on his own tracks, he was shitting on you on your tracks. Like no beat could withstand X on any track. Like you always, and on some features you wouldn't even know he'd be on it until you heard that during the chorus.
Yeah, you didn't want to follow. You didn't want to follow X on a verse.
You don't want to follow X on the verse, and he always came out at the end. And when you heard that bark, and you're like, "Oh shit!" They saved the best for last, and X would come on. For me, as a kind of just looking at his entire life arc, he was so perfectly lopsided because you talk about the vengeance that he came out with, right? Like just that hunger, that crazy death, violent shit, right? But then you had the spiritual side of him, and then you had the human side of him. Like there's so many stories that came out about him,
the father side of
random people on the street, spending hours with them, impromptu, caught on tape, like just random people because he enjoyed people enjoying him,
right?
And he gave them what they want. So
it's funny. So I remember the first time I heard DMX, I'm trying to take it back to that time, was when Money, Power, Respect came out, right?
Yeah.
And I remember listening to that song, and first of all, the beat was fucking fire, right?
It was super fucking crazy.
Super like dramatic, so melodramatic, cinematic beat, right?
Yeah. And yo, you got that foreshadowing dog bark before his verse, right?
That's what happened, right? So I'm listening to this shit and I'm probably 10 years old, right? I'm 10 years old. I remember we had the single at my house. It was the Locks. It was at the time, like, have the internet, right? So you see on the thing, it says the Locks featuring DMX, and you're not really thinking about like, who's this, right? You're listening to the song and the beat's just hitting, and then all the Locks members drop their verse, and there's 3 of them, right? So like most songs, they don't have 3 verses, right? So it's just funny how like all those factors can go into your experience, right? Like the 3 verses come on, I'm thinking this shit's over, right?
Yeah.
And then like it's like this, you're like, oh, you're coming down, and then arf, arf, this is the beat that I could free. Like I was like, who the fuck is this? Like it was insane. I was like, what the, like the energy was crazy. And then I remember watching the video, and he's on like this fire escape, and there's like fucking 50 dudes, and he's just throwing money off the junk.
Insane. Yeah.
And he's just like, and then when you're listening to it and you're not expecting that verse, and the verse comes out and you're still caught up in that high, and then like he's already said like 4 or 5 slick ass things, already like drops some bars, and then like the verse goes on this crescendo where it's increasing in like amplitude, what he's saying, how loud he's talking. And then after that, I just remember being in where I forgot if it was in middle school or something like that. I just remember the video for Get At Me Dog came out, right? And that video, I don't remember why. I haven't watched it in a while, but I just remember it used to be on BET Uncut. I don't know if there was something in the video or it was just there's a lot of cursing. I don't know what it was, but it used to come on late at night, right? It was like the black and white video, and it was in a club. It was at the Tunnel.
Yeah.
That video came out, and I was like, oh shit, holy shit, right? And then I had heard a story about how, you know, Russell Simmons was talking about how basically Def Jam was in the shitter at that point, right? It wasn't doing too well. And Def Jam had also kind of prided itself on a certain sound, right? And the sound that was prevalent around that time. And basically DMX had really changed all that. And the first time Russell Simmons had heard Get At Me Dog, right? He was blown away. He was like, okay, this is our new sound. This is where we need to go, right? This is what we need. And, you know, Irv Gotti had also preached the same thing to him. He had basically called him. He was like, look, this is what we need. We need that, like that bounce, right? And that grittiness. And then when Russell Simmons heard that song, he came back to Def Jam, and he didn't even realize DMX was already on the label. He was already signed. So then, like, he had basically looked into, like, okay, what the fuck's going on with this dude, right? And it was funny, simultaneously, Swiss Beats had just been brought in, right? He had just been brought in because his uncle was under Def Jam, and they were making beats. So they brought him in to teach him how to do this shit. He was in Atlanta, and he was making music, but like nothing crazy. He had never made beats before, right? So they brought him in, and most of his shit was trash, right? Like he would just sit there and he would play the same shit. It's funny because Swiss Beats is great now, but he has a very distinctive sound. But they say he's just the same shit. And then one day he just played that dun, 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 and then they brought DMX in, and they were like, "This is the song." And he's like, "Nah, I'm not with all that. Like, I'm not feeling it. I'm not gonna do it." And they're just like, "Come on." And they basically, you know, Swiss Beats' uncle and DMX were playing a card game. He's like, "Let's play some cards." Like, if I win, you're gonna go on there. You're gonna make the song. And if I lose, you're not gonna make the song. Don't worry about it, right? He wins. He's like, "All right, we got to go." DMX goes in there, knocks it out. A couple hours, boom.
The rest is fucking history.
And then the story begins, right? So it's crazy, man. Like I was never a huge DMX fan, but those moments, the more I was thinking about it this week, I was like, damn, I used to really fuck with this guy, right? And it's weird. It just kind of took all this for me to remember how much of my memories were kind of ingrained in his music.
To this day, I can't listen to Rough Riders Volume 1 without thinking about my freshman year of college and riding with my roommate and his boy to go pick up the Volume 1 CD from fucking Walmart. And they fucking played that shit to death in the dorms. All I heard was Volume 2, Rough Riders Volume 1, X, like you name it. But that sound, that sound is something I cannot pry away from that first year of college. I was in the dorms with so many New York and Jersey dudes. And X was just like fucking everything to them. Rough Riders Volume 1 was everything.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So
and there's always stories about him having a rap battle with Jay-Z. And then it came out recently that he was like when he would do like freestyle battles, he would bring his dogs and he would teach his dogs to jump in on the parts where they were supposed to bark.
Crazy
right? Like this dude's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So one classic thing about DMX's career was the movie Belly.
Yes.
Like I think one thing that's underrated, like conceptually, when you think about it, Hype Williams directed motion picture starring Nas and DMX. Like conceptually, as awful as you might think that movie is, it was awful.
I watched it 2 weeks ago. I was like, God,
it's awful.
But I know every line from it.
Yeah. Gotta find me a page.
Like, but X was essentially himself in that movie. That was him. Like they didn't have to write anything in that character.
I remember being in TV class in the 12th grade, and
theater
somebody had
class?
You had TV class senior year?
Yeah, TV production. It was a fucking 4-credit vocational class.
Yeah, by the time you run out of shit to take.
Somebody had bought the actual movie on VHS and brought it into class and asked everybody, yo, bring your own blank tapes and I'll sell you a copy of Belly using the multi VCR deck, copy deck. So this dude had the master copy and the master VCR, 12 simultaneous copies, just recording at the same time, making some bread off of his classmates. And we bought it. I can't remember how much he was selling them for, like $5 or something.
They showed Belly at Alamo Draft House does old movies. They run old movies every month. And
Nice.
They did Belly. I just missed that shit right before lockdown, but
that's hilarious.
The movie was gorgeous. It was, again, the writing is whatever you
very well
say
shot.
it is.
Like, the opening scene,
but Hype made fucking. I mean, that was another mainstay of '90s hip hop. Is how much like Hype made basically small motion pictures, and nobody was like touching that shit.
Yeah. When you saw that opening credit, Hype Williams presents.
Right, he had some, and that's I missed that. I missed that.
Yeah.
We need more Hype Williams in the theater. So rest in peace, Earl Simmons. DMX, your music's it's timeless. It's gonna stay on top, like it always has. We're gonna keep it moving. Switch on over to the big screen. We're gonna keep it nostalgic, man. Keep it old school. Zane introducing a new segment here, reviewing an older movie recommendation that you probably haven't seen. Yeah, this week's movie is Half Nelson. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just in case you missed it. So I mean, like, I notice a lot of people are always like, like I'm watching movies and I've seen everything and there's nothing to watch. And then it's just like, I remember I went through that time period where I was just like, I was so fascinated with film and I was just like, is this it? Like, that's it? Like, there's nothing else? Like, I've seen it all? Like, so that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of just finding a lot of these older movies. And Half Nelson was probably one of them, I watched. It came out in 2006. I probably watched it like 5-6 years ago. And it stars Ryan Gosling. And it's just funny because a lot of these actors who you perceive to be these leading heroes that are in movies that are kind of corny, but they kind of capitalize on this good-looking white man kind of trope. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But Ryan Gosling had some. If you go back in his filmography, he has a lot of great, gems that a lot of people haven't heard of, and he's basically these movies to me. I mean, if you watch these movies, you realize he's one of the best actors of this generation. And Half Nelson was probably the performance for me that put him over the top. There's one called True Believer. It's also a great movie where he plays the neo-Nazi, kind of in the vein of Edward Norton in American History X. It's also a fantastic movie. There's also Place Beyond the Pines, which we might get into later, which is also a really good movie with him and Bradley Cooper and Eva Mendes. But yeah, this is basically he plays a middle school history teacher at a school in Brooklyn, and basically he's one of those teachers that's kind of rejecting the standard curriculum and kind of doing his own thing. It's a school full of mostly Black and Hispanic students, and it seems like he's a kind of young guy that has it all going for him until you basically realize that he's addicted to cocaine. He's basically freebasing cocaine, and his life is in fucking shambles. So within the plot of this movie, he also there's a young student named Dre, who's played by Sharika Epps, who's also, I haven't seen her in much after this, but I haven't followed her career. She's a young Black girl. She is magnificent in this movie. She just jumps off the screen. She seems very realistic. It's a great portrayal of this character, and he basically builds some sort of relationship with her, and her life isn't, also that great. I mean, she's a single mother. She has an absentee father. Her brother is basically in prison for selling drugs, selling cocaine also, right? So there's obviously that sort of link that we have here, right? Where she is kind of building this relationship with this teacher played by Ryan Gosling. His life is in shambles. He's addicted to cocaine. And, at the same time, her brother's in prison. She doesn't have a father. And the one person in the streets who's also kind of been watching over her is a character portrayed by Anthony Mackie. So Anthony Mackie plays basically a guy who's also dealing drugs, right? And he is the guy, her brother who's in prison is because he took the fall for Anthony Mackie's character, right? Oof. So you kind of have this thing where, he's kind of, Ryan Gosling's, giving her a ride home, taking care of her, building this friendship, and you're constantly seeing the character played by Anthony Mackie come into the fold. And both of these people are questioning each other's motives where they're constantly seeing each other. That's kind of the deeper points of the plot. But the plot for me is, Roger Ebert kind of put it a certain way. He was basically saying that how people are flawed, miserable, frustrated people, they go to work every day and find a way to care about something beyond themselves, despite themselves, and how a man or a person in general cannot be summarized by one thing, right? Yep. Whether they do drugs, whether they're an alcoholic, or whether, they have a vice, nobody should be summarized by these things. And it's essentially a character study, into Ryan Gosling's character and how he's going through all these things. And, he doesn't have great relationships with women, with family, and he's basically shit in all these aspects of his life. But the great part about him is trying to outreach to these people, to these kids, and specifically one girl in general who's also going through her own problems. So it's a definite must watch for me. It's a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a all around great performance by Ryan Gosling and Sharika Epps. I would definitely recommend it. And that's pretty much it.
So how did you do your research to come to this movie? Like what?
It's basically like a lot of searching. It started off like, most underrated movies of the last 50 years, right? And then you go like the Sight and Sound, top 100 list. They drop a list, and then you kind of filter through there and say, okay, the 60s, the 70s, 80s. It's kind of hard to start off with movies from the 60s and go back to Hitchcock because it requires so much discipline and patience.
Facts.
So usually
things I don't have.
It's hard, right? You have to build yourself up to it, right? It's like listening to classical music. You're going to start at jazz, right? Or you might start back in the 70s and then kind of build your way up. So, and then the one thing, it's good to attach yourself to a director. You like a movie from this director, right? Well, what else has he directed, right? You find a critic that you like. Roger Ebert was a critic that I began to like because his rating system was not typical in the sense that, I'm only giving 4 stars to these bougie, snobby movies, right? He had a list, and I would basically filter through that list. I literally had like 200 tabs open of all his 3 and 4 star movies. And within that list, I found a good 100 movies that I had never heard of ever in my life, right? And I watched those movies, and those movies were better than all the movies, the mainstream shits that I liked, right? And it basically went from there.
So big rabbit hole.
It's a big rabbit hole, but like, Hollywood is so different now. Like, you have to realize Americans don't make the best movies anymore. You know what I'm saying? Correct. So like, you'll go down to trope where you just see all these Korean movies, and you see these German movies and these French movies, and you're like, holy shit, this is a whole different experience. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of these movies don't get the limelight that they deserve, but they're great movies.
Zane's got like some dark back room with like a web of different movie titles on the wall. Like
I actually keep a list. I have a list of like 80, 90
just
movies.
Trying to figure out what to watch, just like mapping shit.
It's hard.
Ryan Gosling,
on that rabbit hole.
Anthony. Oh, you got Anthony Mackie and Ryan Gosling put them together. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
He's got the detective.
You know what the crazy thing is too? If you watch a movie and like you'll watch a movie with some bit actor or like random actor, and then the next day after
you watch a movie with some bitch.
Some bitch ass actor like Anthony Mackie, bitch ass motherfucker.
Fuck Anthony Mackie.
No, but like the next day, like 10 movies are on, and they all have Anthony Mackie in it. It's fucking weird.
I know. Yeah,
every fucking time.
Yeah, you like the T-Pain of actors.
Yeah,
it's like a feature on every fucking movie.
No, it's just it's good to, if you're into film and you find these movies, it's just exciting. Yeah. It's like it's a reinvigoration because you're just like, okay, I'm not watching the superhero shit that's constantly dropping. Right. Whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, that's good. We should do this more often. Thanks for the tip, man. Half Nelson. You can watch it on Hulu.
Yeah, good plug.
If you don't have a terabyte hard drive full of pirated movies. We'll move on to Jamal watching Them.
Oh boy. Them. Them is a new Amazon Prime Video series directed by Lena Waithe. You know Lena from her series was The Chi, I believe, the Showtime series. She also had a hand in she did Queen and Slim. She directed that movie.
Okay.
Starring Daniel Kaluuya. Came out a couple years ago now. A year ago, I forgot exactly when it came out. Written by a guy named Little Marvin. Hadn't heard of him before. I looked up his profile on IMDb. Seems like he's fairly new to the scene. This is an original kind of screenplay for a series. I'll say that when the series trailer first came out back in, I believe it was February, March, people were very confused because it looked a lot like something that Jordan Peele already did. It was racial based. It was set in the 50s. It had, a hip hop song that was slowed down as part of the trailer. all the way down to one of the cast members was also in Us, playing the exact same role. She played the daughter in Us. She also plays the daughter of the family in this series. Her name's Shahadi Wright. So this series follows a family, the Emery family, who moves from North Carolina to California, to Compton, California in 1953, September of 1953. This is the Great Migration period, right? So blacks are moving out of the South to the West, the Midwest, different parts of the country. And the series follows their first 10 days in this house. Without going into detail, because I would like people to see this, but I'm going to give you some warnings here and there. It is excessively traumatic. It is hardcore racial trauma to the point where I've known people started and they got off of it. They couldn't watch anymore. It's 10 episodes. The episodes kind of go by quickly because I think they're all roughly about anywhere from like 35 to like right around the hour time mark. So I was able to binge it. I watched it from Friday through Saturday. I finished it up. It's tough, man. It's a lot of shit going on. It's a thriller / horror film. But the horror, quote unquote, is really based around kind of two things, not only with the family experiences, but there's also a supernatural element that's tied to this house that they've moved into. But this family gets brutalized by horrifically racist neighbors on their neighborhood street, to the point where it becomes an almost basically an unlivable situation. Essentially, that's what's going on. So there are flashbacks between the bounces between the current day and the time that they spent, really just one kind of snapshot of the time that the family was in North Carolina. Everybody's talking about one particular scene, again, not going to give it away, that again is excessively brutal, unbelievably horrible to watch. And I actually had to read, the LA Times wrote an article, came out over the weekend, I think it was Saturday, about basically the racial trauma that the family experienced in this series go too far. Was it too much for film, too much for video?
Are you talking about, like, when you say brutal, is it like something physically brutal, like they were being
it's
violence?
It goes everywhere from verbal harassment to physical stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Property damage. I mean, you name it. And my problem with it is that, to me, the narrative didn't quite round out like I think it could have. There was closure at the end, but at the same time, it took a lot to endure just what they experience on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
The dad trying to be the anchor of the family, and, he's got a job at an engineering firm. He gets a lot of shit there just by nature of being, the only black man that's there. The mom's a housewife. She's enduring a lot of shit with the families on the street. Like I mentioned, the daughters are going through a lot of shit. One of them is, I think, a freshman in high school. The other one's starting kindergarten. There's really no kind of comfortable space for them at all, is what I'm getting at. And that's, again, it's tough to watch.
Yeah.
The last 2 episodes, there's one that was really a kind of true origin story of some kind of key plot pieces. The whole episode's in black and white. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. But even that was rough as shit to watch, right? So it's almost like, I hear a lot of my friends talk about, to get back to the top of the episode of this podcast, protecting your peace and kind of watching how much racial trauma you take in.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this shit in real time, and we don't necessarily have to go into a fictional account of it because we live in this shit day to day. So from that aspect, if you would like to watch it, but you are feeling particularly sensitive right now because of the climate, wait a while to watch this. I would say wait a few weeks, maybe a couple months before you kind of jump into it, because it is particularly harsh. But to me, yes, it is it's horror by genre, but the horror to me was more incidental to just kind of the real shit that they were going through.
Right.
And maybe there's the point. Maybe it's the real life horror. I'm trying to find more things to read about this, trying to read up more. Maybe I didn't watch the extras yet of the series. I'm sure they have something with Lena and or Marvin to speak about, what they went through, I guess, writing and putting everything together. Little Marvin talked about the bad, terrible, horrific scene that was written. And he said that came to him in a nightmare. And he got up in the middle of the night and he had his notes app out. I guess he started to write it. He said, you know what, that's a little bit too much. Maybe I shouldn't do that. but he said it kept sitting with him to the point where he actually eventually wrote it into the plot. So it's tough, man. I didn't get out of it what I wanted to. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. I had really high hopes for it. Once I got past the whole thing, like, oh, they were just kind of, ghosting off Jordan Peele. It's really more like Lovecraft Country if you want to look at the setting and what it more closely parallels. But I thought it just kind of fell short of my expectations, and I thought again they were too heavy-handed on racial trauma, and I think they could have done more with the kind of horror and psychological thriller element of it. I give it a C. I wanted to love it more. I really did. But it's tough. And again, I encourage people to kind of, if you need to, step away for a while. If you think you can separate the two, then by all means jump in. But it's a really, really heavy thing to watch right now. But it did get picked up for season 2 already. So there's there's something there. I did read that.
Interesting.
Also,
okay.
So.
Yeah, that does give you some hope if that's what you were looking for. I can totally, because there's a difference between like psychedelic shit, thriller, type of horrors versus real life human situations and real life events and trauma. That's also horrifying. For me, that's all it takes for a horror flick, is like, even if it's portraying something that's real, that's happened, especially when it comes to trauma and racial trauma at that. But yeah, to your point, if you were looking for something a little bit outside of that in terms of horror and not getting that, so
it's not really
yeah, but we'll see what happens in season 2. That's on Prime Video. All 10 episodes for the first season are out. And season 2 on the horizon. Damn, what a setting. I bet their white boy summers sucked out there too. Which leads us right into Detention for some of this shit real quick. Lost somebody. All right. Detention. This should be short and sweet, quick and easy. Not much going on. Chet Hanks, white boy summer video. Jamal, you're hot right now. Keep it going.
Nah, man. Like, I'm tired of like rich people not having anything constructive to do with their time. Chet Hanks has been eating off his head. He's like a social media darling. Like, he's got the fucking patois, and like he's fucking, he's funny as shit. But he threw out the white boy summer thing like weeks ago. And it became like a punchline, but instead of just kind of riding the punchline off into the sunset, he's mentioned this week that he's going to make a music video, and a movie about white boy summer. Like, shit ain't going away. Like,
what is the concept? What is it molded around? Like being rich and white, or what? He
didn't really explain it. That's the thing. Like he left it kind of vague, but he's quick to say it's not like racist shit. It's like whatever the fuck. But
I get it.
It's not racist.
Whatever the fuck. That's the good way.
Whatever the fuck. Yeah. When he said that, I was like, I get it. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. Just go away.
Just the whole term just sounds stupid. I'm not fucking with it.
Chet Hanks.
Chet Hanks.
Tom Hanks' boy.
Yeah, it's Tom Hanks' son.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until right now either.
Shit. Okay.
Tom Hanks' sons couldn't be more different, by the way.
Yeah. Cicadas are on the horizon. They're coming soon, aren't they? When are the fuck they coming?
That mixtape's about to drop in like 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks?
When that soil temperature gets a little bit hotter. Oof.
Let me just say that I don't mind. I think cicadas are pretty cool, but I'm like a fucking gross. Like, I played in my backyard as a kid and dug shit up. And
I hate you, man.
I have no problem with that. I think they're cool, man.
We could never hang out. Like, I don't get it, man.
But they're coming. I listened to a whole podcast this morning about cicadas. Like, the holes in the ground, like there are billions of them. They're going from like Georgia. No, listen. They're going from like Georgia to New York. Like, they're going to be all over the fucking East Coast. So the only
you remember when they came 17 years ago? It sucked. I
remember they came more recent than that because a different brood. Like,
correct.
I'm with
you. But that was the onslaught. That was the onslaught. Like 2004.
The 2004.
I was driving a box truck for an AV rental company, right? And those big ass windshields, those like 12-foot windshields, were fucking decimated.
Yeah, I remember I went to
cicada guts.
I went somewhere for Memorial Day weekend, and I parked at like the satellite lot at BWI. Yeah, motherfuckers are waiting on the shuttle, and them shits was landing all over people. Like, this guy got on the shuttle. He had like one like land on the shoulder. He walked in the shuttle with the fucking cicadas on his back, and they like start flying around. Yeah. The sound of them was gonna like make people's skin crawl. Like, I remember driving at like BW Parkway. All you hear was like the screeching sound from all the trees. And shit.
Yeah. It sounds like we at the end of the show. Zane, you got any party thoughts on cicadas? You good?
I'm out. I'm out.
Man.
I don't like creepy, crawly, flying shit.
Especially big, fat, blind ones that indiscriminately fucking.
Yeah, they're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Insects. They're big dumb bugs.
I'm a rapper with this. Yo, listen, it's Ramadan, and the cicadas out there. Listen, if them shits fly into your mouth and you swallow them shits, you still broke your fast.
I heard they taste like shrimp. I heard they taste like shrimp.
You're not getting a pass on your fat. Oh God. You're not getting a pass. You got to make it up. Hey, listen. How's the vaccine? Neil, Jamal, congrats. Got your second.
Oh yeah,
doses.
you guys got it today, right?
Oh, we did. Yeah.
And you're not zombies yet.
Shoulder warm.
Yeah, you're not zombies yet, right? So good.
I'm good, man. I've heard so many horror stories. I'm good so far. I don't know what the fuck I'll be like in the morning, but I'm not feeling anything. But just
I need hourly updates until Thursday. That's when I get mine at 5:30 on Thursday evening. So
cool.
Looking forward to that. That's a wrap for tonight. Be sure to listen to this shit, like this shit, subscribe to this shit,
share this shit.
Jamal Smith, Zane Zaidi, Neil Dalal, Abdullah Sharif, Participation Trophy Podcast. We'll catch you next week. Out.